Good afternoon. It is, what is today? Today is Wednesday, the day after we've had class together. And I wanted to do just a quick live update to give you hopefully more information that may help you with regard to processing the content for this week, as well as just some pointers with regard to completion of your big assignments for the rest of the semester. So here we go. If you have gone through the slideshow, you notice that there was a slide that talked about this semester we have studied, and I'm looking at my notes as I look away here. And there's a list of a whole bunch of things. And I guess I wanted to draw those to your attention for a twofold reason. The first is I want you to think about the content for this semester as a unit of interrelated pieces and parts. I don't want you to think of this as separate snatches of information or content that have just been thrown together because they all have something mysteriously to do with literacy. I want you to think of them as a unit, as a whole, and as such, they are each connected to the other. And that's sort of important as you think about the whole process of literacy instruction, literacy support for your students from the emergent level at kindergarten, first grade, right through the mid-level and into a discussion of adolescent literacy as our students get into middle school and high school. So it's really important to see the connections because as you plan your literacy instruction or the integration of literacy components into your content area classes, you'll want to focus in on all of these different aspects. The other thing that I wanted us to really focus in on is a review of our class definition of literacy. And that's on a slide also in the PowerPoint. And I want you to take a few minutes to look at all of the key aspects that we've noted there and to ask yourself if you believe that you still adhere to the definition as we've written it. As we've studied through different aspects, different content this semester, has your view of what literacy is and literacy instruction changed? The reason this is important for you to reconsider is because the slides that follow the definition talk about supporting literacy acquisition and further development if we're talking about those of you that are in the mid-level grades as far as your teaching focus. Your definition will set the tone for how you'll support literacy. So it's really very important to consider what you believe literacy is because that will determine what supports, what strategies, et cetera, that you put into place in your classroom. So as you look at the slide that talks about literacy circles, or excuse me, literature circles, which we're going to implement the use of in an online type version. It's not ideal, it's not exactly the same, but if our eventual goal is gradual release of responsibility for all of the learning our students will acquire as they get into the upper grades and then also into adulthood, if that's the goal, we need to start putting those types of practices, those type of opportunities within the framework of our lesson designs from the very early ages. And so it's really important for us to equip them with effective strategies and resources like a literature circle, which allows them to assume a role and then take ownership for that aspect and then share it out in a group that will all come together to enhance learning of a particular topic or a particular section of the text they've been reading, et cetera. So it's something that we need to do, and this is just one of the resources that we can provide. If you've looked, as I mentioned, through the PowerPoint, you'll notice that there's a large portion that focuses in on information about Appalachia and what the Appalachian people are like, what their values are, what types of things that they do on a regular basis, where literacy fits or, as is more often the case, doesn't fit within the framework of their daily lives. So take a few minutes and really look at the pictures. Look at the different text that's there that's going to provide you some good information so that you understand better Jenny and Donnie. If you know nothing about the region from which they come, then some of what she proposes, Jenny does, as she's talking to the researcher, the teacher who's actually helping them, it's going to seem very, very strange to you. But if you have have a little bit of background knowledge about these people in general, then you'll have those aha moments where you're like, oh, that description of them in this case is demonstrated in Jenny and Donnie's perception, or their reception or lack of reception to some of the things that the researcher is saying. So it's really important for you to get to know them. And so take a little bit of time to review that aspect. The final thing is I just realized that on at least one of the versions of the PowerPoint, and I had several in the go, trying to figure out how to do a voiceover for you, but one of them had dates that suggested everything was due in November. And that's because the PowerPoint has been reconstructed from something that I used in the fall. So a big oops there. Sorry about that. And if you look at what's the plan and the announcement, the correct dates are there. But let me just assist with that. As for next week, you'll be reading chapters 3 through 5, but you will be responsible for only reading one of those 3 chapters. They are a little bit more lengthy. I will go ahead and scan the chapters and upload them because I know some of you don't have access to the text. So I will make sure that I do that. And I will provide you a listing of who is going to read what chapter. What you'll do is read that chapter, and then you'll be uploading some information based on some questions that are provided for you in a Google PowerPoint that will be embedded into our Blackboard next week. So you'll need to make sure that you read and understand the chapter to which you'll be assigned. With regard to the literacy history assignment, I am working on your rough drafts right now and hope to get those back to you very quickly. The second part, the part where you're doing with the interviewee, is due on April 12th. And then the completed assignment is due on April 14th. Now, I realize you won't have opportunity to get feedback from me with regard to your second part prior to completing the final rough draft, I guess. It's not really a final, but it is a complete rough draft. But I still want you to just drop it in there, and I understand that you will not have had opportunity to edit and rework that based on commentary you'll get back. But I want you to have the opportunity to experience peer review and to get some feedback from one of your classmates so that you can further improve what will become your final draft. The other assignment is let me tell you about the book I've been reading. And I have some dates that I'm looking at right now just for you to work towards. You need to have completed the reading of your book and the filling out the template for the written portion that goes with this by Friday, April 17th. And then what we will do is everyone's going to submit a 5 to 7 minute video of their presentation of their book talk, along with inclusion of the artifact. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get closer, but that won't be due until Tuesday, the 28th, which will be our last official class date, I guess, prior to exam week. But I'll double check the dates and make sure, but I wanted to give you a heads up with regard to that so that you can be preparing. I know if you all are like me, the mustering up the necessary, I'm trying to think of how to put this. I want to say the necessary give a damn, but the necessary motivation is probably a more appropriate term for me as your professor. But the appropriate motivation to complete your tasks, I understand that it's difficult. I'm an extrovert, as you all know, and so being mandated to stay home and have contact basically with just my husband, whom I adore, but not having multiple contacts or multiple opportunities to interact with others is very difficult for me. Some of you are in heaven because you're introverts, and the idea of having a legitimacy to your staying home and not interacting is actually even better. Not that you need legitimacy, but you understand, I think, where I'm coming from. Anyway, regardless, I hope you all are doing well. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions or concerns going forward. And please know that I'm thinking about you, and I'm here to assist you in any way that I can. Have a great rest of the week.